The Dark Brotherhood questline in Skyrim is, to put it lightly, insane, and ends with one of the most pivotal moments in the entire Elder Scrolls franchise thus far. The impact of Amaund Motierre's actions, as well as, of course, the Dark Brotherhood, will absolutely be felt in whatever comes next for the Elder Scrolls. So, of course, I ask the question, why? Why did Amaund Motierre do what he did? Was he acting alone or with a group? Were his actions just a self-serving play at more power in Cyrodiil, or were his motives more altruistic than that? Let's check it out. What's going on, folks? I am SJ from 10 Points of Slashing, and in this video we're going to attempt to answer some of those questions by taking a look at what few facts we actually have, and then I'll be taking a stab at what I think is ultimately going on in Cyrodiil that led to Motierre completely destabilizing the already broken empire. Let's kick this one off by talking about everybody's favorite psychopathic cult of assassins before we dive into who Amaund Motierre is and what he did during the events of Skyrim, and then jump face first into the burning questions this whole thing kicks up. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the Dark Brotherhood. I'm not gonna do a whole lore dump on these guys, as I'd bet most people watching this video already have a pretty strong understanding of exactly who they are, but I do want to hit a couple important key points. As we all know, the Dark Brotherhood is both a guild of assassins and a cult that openly worships Sithis. Sithis is essentially the projected deific aspect of Padme, one of the two supreme forces of creation that exist on reality's highest power echelon, even above that of the Aedra and Daedra themselves. Jesus Christ, that's a mouthful. I need to change that. Sithis is basically an incredibly powerful representation of chaos, destruction, emptiness, and the void. Fuck it, I'll just make a graphic that explains it. What I'm getting at here is that Sithis is clearly not what you'd call a good guy. He's not a benevolent power by any means. However, I'd argue that he's also not a malevolent power. I don't think Sithis would fall on either side of a good versus evil comparison. There are things under the scope of what Sithis represents that are absolutely objectively evil, but Sithis himself is not inherently evil, if that makes sense. With that said, here's some imagery that depicts Sithis. Here's the point I'm trying to make. It's reasonable to assume that most of the people of Tamriel who are aware of the Dark Brotherhood do perceive them as evil. They're not just freelancing assassins with no allegiance or loyalty to anyone except whoever pays them. And even if they were, they're still assassins. They literally murder people for money. They're directly aligned with a deity figure that is typically seen by the common people as being representative of evil. With that said, this is something that I will bring up later, but for now, let's jump into talking about the man of the hour himself, Amaund Motierre. Amaund Motierre is a Breton man that has come to Skyrim with his bodyguard Rexus to seek the aid of the Dark Brotherhood in his plot to have the Emperor of Cyrodiil assassinated. He's put together a pretty cohesive plan to draw the Emperor away from the capital and into Skyrim so that he's an easier target. And here's the really interesting bit. It's assumed, but not ever directly stated, that Motierre is a member of the Elder Council, essentially the secondary ruling body of the Empire of Cyrodiil. You can think of the Elder Council as the Emperor's advisors. These are typically the wealthiest men and women of the provinces that the Empire is composed of. As Motierre is a Breton, he could potentially be an Elder Council representative of High Rock. However, again, this is never confirmed or denied in-game. The reason that this assumption is made is that Motierre presents an extremely special amulet to the Dark Brotherhood as a sort of initial investment in the contract. This amulet is one of many that are given to members of the Elder Council, and Delvin Mallory confirms its authenticity. However, I admittedly get kind of hung up on the details here. Here's the deal. We don't know how many of these things exist. They could, in theory, make a new amulet every time somebody new gains a seat on the council. However, I highly doubt that. Mallory's reaction to the presentation of the amulet makes it seem like there's a finite number of these things, and this is one of them. The no shit, real deal Elder Council amulet. Another thing to consider is that just 20 years prior to Motierre's appearance in Skyrim, the Second Treaty of Stros-M'Kai was signed and Hammerfell left the Empire. This means that the members of the Elder Council that were representatives of Hammerfell, people that had Elder Council amulets, no longer have a seat on the council, which means there are now amulets out there that don't belong to official actual members. Motierre has one of these amulets. So, is he a member of the Elder Council and this is his own amulet that he's voluntarily surrendering to the Dark Brotherhood? Is he a representative of someone else that is on the Elder Council? Or did he just get this amulet from somewhere else? He's shown that he's willing and able to work with the Dark Brotherhood to achieve his ends. Who's to say he didn't contact a high-profile thieves guild to acquire this amulet for him? The last thing I want to mention here is the history of the Motierre family itself. I swear I'll be brief here so that we can get to the good stuff, but I'd be remiss to not discuss the other Motierres we see across the Elder Scrolls franchise. Chronologically, in our universe, the first Motier that we see is a man named Francois, who, during the events of Oblivion, hires the Dark Brotherhood to help him out of some trouble he's in with a moneylender. This is significant to me for a number of reasons, one of which is the fact that in Skyrim, Babette refers to the Motierres as a very old and powerful Breton family firmly established in Cyrodiil. The fact that this dude is in trouble with a moneylender tells me that during Oblivion, the Motierres probably weren't exactly powerful yet. I don't think any credible criminal organization would send some punk-ass Argonian enforcer to take care of a member of a powerful, firmly established family. The next member of the Motierre family we encounter is actually in the Elder Scrolls Online's Dark Brotherhood DLC. Mirabelle Motierre, an assassin working for the Brotherhood. What's interesting about this is the events of this game take place just shy of 1,000 years before the events of Skyrim, so the Motierres have had a connection to the Dark Brotherhood for at least that long. What this tells me is that Amaund Motierre's decision to seek out the Dark Brotherhood to enact his plan's killing blow, as it were, seems to be rooted in his own family's history. This isn't a decision made on some kind of politician's whimsical idea of what the Dark Brotherhood is. It's reasonable to assume that Motierre knows exactly who they are, what they do, and who they worship, due to his family's history with them. He knows that an ancestor of his was a member of the Brotherhood, and that at least one time that we're aware of, a member directly helped his family in the past. So, now that we've established all that, let's get to the subject matter. The burning questions we have about what the hell is going on here. First and foremost, what was Amaund Motierre's motivation? During the events of Skyrim, we know one thing for certain. The Empire is actively dying. No matter what side of the Civil War you're on, I think pretty much everybody can recognize the dire straits that the Empire is and has been in since the Great War. So, we can probably assume this. Cyrodiil is currently in abject political turmoil, a wretched hive of finely dressed and wealthy scum and villainy. People stabbing each other in the back for more power. Plans and evil machinations constantly in motion. I'm sure this is no different than the normal political environment in Cyrodiil. However, I'd say that it's reasonable to assume that it's just that much worse since the Great War. It is the witching hour for political backstabbing in Cyrodiil, and many citizens of the Empire directly blame Titus Mede II for the current state of it. So, is Amaund Motierre's contract just that? A power grab? Is it just an effort to take the current emperor out of the picture so that a new one can step in? One that, perhaps, paid Amaund Motierre a hefty sum of money due to knowledge of his family's history? Or is this evidence of a plot within the Empire to right the wrongs that are currently strangling the Empire to its inevitable and violent death? Is Amaund Motierre representative of a group that is sick and tired of bending over for the Thalmor? I'm not gonna lie, it is my honest hope that that is exactly what's happening. A group of politicians with influence in the Empire have grown tired of 30 years of letting the Thalmor stomp on their provinces and have elected to do something about it. And it starts with cutting the head off of the corrupt snake. This is something that has to be done in secret so that neither the Thalmor nor the Empire catches wind of it. Planning and scheming that has to be done behind closed doors, in other provinces, and away from the capital, under the cover of ancient stone walls and guarded by undead warriors. Food for thought. The next important question to ask, and one that would honestly help serve to answer the first one, is, was Amaund Motierre acting alone? We have no idea if he was or wasn't. It's my own interpretation that he is not. When you come back to the Bannered Mare and deliver the news, the general vibe that I get from him is that this is a group of people organizing all this. I'll be totally real with you though, my assumption here is just straight up coming from a vibe, dude. I have no facts or evidence to produce that says that he was or wasn't working alone. I don't know, I get the sense that he's not. However, it's important to consider both sides of this. If he was acting alone, it seems like it may just be more of a power grab, more political upheaval in a crumbling empire. I will say though, he does seem genuine as fuck when he talks about how you've served the Empire in ways you cannot possibly understand. If this was just a power grab, I don't think he'd sound as altruistic as he does. If he's not acting alone, it could still very well be a power grab. This could just be a more influential person on the Elder Council paying off Motierre to do this. This could just be manipulation. Somebody could have convinced Motierre that doing this would serve the Empire and all of Tamriel, when in reality, this just allows the mystery dude to acquire more power. The fact is, we straight up don't know. So, on that note, let's ask the next question. What impact does the death of the Emperor have on the world as a whole? One thing is certain, the Empire will fundamentally change. Titus Mede II, fucking typo, dude. Titus Mede II will undoubtedly be remembered as one of the most controversial emperors Cyrodiil has ever known. Whoever the next emperor ends up being knows that. The next emperor also knows that somebody out there has the capability to have him or her removed if they don't like his or her policies. So it's safe to assume that the next one is going to be nothing like Titus Mede II. The Mede dynasty may end there, it may not. But either way, all of the stirrings within the Empire that claim the Empire is weak, dying, etc., the new Emperor is going to do everything they can to show the people that things have changed. This is a new, strong empire. And I think that means that regardless of the outcome of the Skyrim Civil War, the Empire is going to war with the Thalmor again. If there is a group planning this that has the intent to go to war with the Thalmor, it's reasonable to assume that with the amount of intricate planning that went into the assassination of Titus Mede II, they're probably also making sure their military forces can stand against the Thalmor. They're probably getting ready, with people like General Tullius quietly in the know. And this is exactly the kind of subterfuge and unconventional warfare that I feel is the only way for the Empire to defeat the Dominion. I maintain that the Thalmor's skill in unconventional warfare is the only reason they won the Great War to begin with, and that if the Empire has any hope of ever taking them down, they need to match that. And if they can bring the strategy and caliber of Cyrodiil's internal political scheming to the way they wage war, I think that the Empire can finally break the chains that the Thalmor and Dominion have wrapped around its collective throat. So, to bring it all home, I'll ask one last question. Whose side is Amaund Motierre on? Honestly, the people's. I think that the evidence in general points more towards Amaund Motierre doing this for reasons that will actually benefit the Empire, or at least reasons that he thinks will benefit the Empire. I really don't think he's doing this as a selfish power grab, and that's honestly mainly based on his dialogue at the end of the questline. As I said earlier, he seems genuine about having the Empire and all of Tamriel's best interests in mind. The question remains, of course, what his interpretation of those best interests actually is. But given everything we've discussed thus far, I'm definitely leaning that direction. Here are the facts. Motierre is willingly surrendering a near priceless amulet that can probably be traced back to him if it actually is his, in addition to a large sum of gold to get this done. That's a man with a mission. Motierre is willingly hiring an organization that most people perceive as evil, an organization that has a long-standing connection with his family that has to be public knowledge. And once news gets back to Cyrodiil that immediately following the destruction of the Dark Brotherhood sanctuary in Skyrim, the Emperor was assassinated, if Motierre's political leanings indicate any kind of opposition to Titus Mede II, I'm sure there's gonna be eyes on him. He's willingly blackening his reputation to get this done. He's martyring himself to change the Empire. But if he is just another selfish politician trying to rise above his current station and he's playing me like a lute, bravo, man. Honestly, it's just another reason to celebrate Skyrim's incredible storytelling. Getting us all to buy into these factions or causes in the first place is the mark of a great story, but then turning it all around on us, showing us that the bad guys were actually good guys and the good guys were actually bad guys, I fucking love shit like that, dude. This is exactly the type of storytelling that lasts for 13 years. The reason we're all still talking about it, the reason that new players in a new generation are still spinning this game up for the first time and immersing themselves in this world. Skyrim rules, man. As always, thank you so much for checking the video and the channel out. I sincerely hope that this video made you want to go play Skyrim again, whether you enjoyed the video or not, honestly. That's why we do this, to share our passion and hopefully enable you to have an incredible time playing an incredible game once again. If you did enjoy the video, please consider subscribing and join the Discord if you want to chat with us directly. The link to join is in the description of the video. Let me know what you think about this whole debacle, and if you have anything on Motier that I missed, please feel free to drop a comment and chat. One last time, thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I will catch you in the next one. Later. It's reasonable to assume that with the amount of intricate planning that went into the assassination... What the fuck?